The Bold and the Beautiful B&B recap for Wednesday, January 21st, reveals that Deacon Sharp, Sean Kanan, and Taylor Hayes, Rebecca Butig, had a kiss twist while Dylan Sidney Bullock had a spicy evening with Will Spencer Crew Morrow at the beach house. Will gave Dylan the news that Electra Forrester Linnea Grace had to work late and invited her to eat with him since there was too much food. Dylan was hesitant at first, since she thought it'd be awkward, but Will convinced her it was fine at one point. Will noticed some of his things as well as Electra's in Dylan's batch of laundry, although Will insisted Dylan didn't have to do their load too. She was determined to repay them for all their kindness. Over dinner later, Dylan sampled Will's teriyaki chicken and gave it a thumbs up. Once Dylan admitted she liked a little spicy with her sweet, she doused her plate of food in hot sauce. Dylan wound up laughing with Will as she poured some on his plate. There was also some talk about Katie, Logan Spencer's, Heather, Tom, Forrester departure, and Will's meet cute with Electra. Will cracked a joke about Electra not missing his snoring, so Dylan chuckled over that. Later, Will fell asleep on the couch, and indeed snored. So it was a little creepy as Dylan stood there watching and listening in the Forrester design office. Ivy praised Electra and Will for what they were doing for Dylan, but she still found it inappropriate that Dylan was living on the property alone with Will. After Steffi finished warning Taylor to shut things down with Deacon, she popped up at Forrester Creations next. Steffi brought up a potential receptionist gig for Dylan there, but she didn't want Electra to mention it to Dylan just yet. At home, Deacon was adamant that leaving Sheila would put Taylor at risk. Hope could see how much Deacon cared about Taylor since he was being so protective of her. Deacon didn't want to risk riling Sheila up, which could end in disaster for Taylor even so. Hope felt like Deacon had become a hostage in his relationship and didn't like him living this way. While Hope pushed Deacon to go to Taylor and tell her how he felt, Sheila cornered Deke Sharp, Harrison Cohn at Il Giardino and hoped he'd come around on accepting her marriage to Deacon. The conversation shifted to how incredible Taylor was, so Deke acknowledged that Deacon indeed thought the doc was amazing. When Hope caught up with Deke later, she offered updates on her earlier discussion with Deacon and hoped he was off confessing his true feelings too. Taylor B&B made it seem like Deacon rushed to Taylor's office to share how he wanted her in his life, which led to a passionate makeout session. However, it was just a fantasy, so Deacon was left deep in thought over Taylor while she got all flustered over him in her office alone. The Bold and the Beautiful spoilers say Taylor and Deacon may be on the verge of kissing for real soon enough, so stay tuned. CDL will have other exciting Bold and the Beautiful spoilers, updates and news to read up on, so make us your favorite B&B hotspot. Deacon stood frozen in the hallway outside Taylor's office, his mind still replaying the fantasy he couldn't shake. Inside, Taylor leaned back against her desk, one hand pressed to her chest, trying to slow her racing heart. Neither of them had spoken, neither of them had moved, but both of them knew something dangerous had just shifted. At Sheila watched Deacon from across the room, her eyes narrowing as she noticed his distracted expression. Sheila could always tell when Deacon was thinking about someone else, and right now, she was sure it wasn't her. Deacon faces the truth. Deacon finally exhaled and whispered to himself, "Get it together, Sharp. This is exactly how people get hurt." He pulled out his phone, stared at Taylor's name in his contacts, then locked the screen again without calling. Instead, he headed straight home, but peace didn't greet him there. Sheila was waiting. Sheila senses trouble. Sheila smiled sweetly when Deacon walked in. "You're late," she said calmly. "Work ran long," Deacon replied, not meeting her eyes. Sheila stepped closer. "You smell like that office of hers." Deacon stiffened. "I was at Il Giardino." Sheila tilted her head. "Funny, because I was there too, and you weren't." Silence fell between them. Sheila's smile faded. "So tell me, Deacon," she said softly, "were you thinking about Taylor again?" Deacon didn't answer. That was all the answer Sheila needed. Taylor confides in Steffi at Forrester Creations. Taylor sat with Steffi in the design office after hours. "I'm losing control," Taylor admitted quietly. "I keep telling myself to stay away from him, and then I imagine him walking through that door." Steffi frowned. "Mom, this is exactly what I warned you about." "I know," Taylor said, "but it feels different, and that's what scares me." Steffi crossed her arms. "Sheila will destroy you if she even suspects this." Taylor nodded slowly. "I'm starting to think she already does." Will and Dylan cross a line. Meanwhile, at the beach house, the mood between Will and Dylan shifted again. Electra still hadn't come home. The silence felt heavier than before. Will stood by the kitchen counter. "You okay?" he asked. Dylan hesitated. "I don't like the way I feel here when it's just us." Will swallowed. "Yeah, me neither." They stood too close. Too long. Dylan finally stepped back. We shouldn't do this, she whispered. Will nodded, but we both know it's already happening. Hope pushes Deacon. Next morning, Hope showed up at Deacon's door. Sheila was out. Perfect timing. You didn't go to Taylor last night, did you? Hope asked. Deacon shook his head. No, and that might have been the hardest thing I've ever done. Hope softened. Then why do you look like a man who already lost her? Deacon sighed. Because if I choose her, I lose everything else. Hope took his hand. And if you don't, I lose myself. Sheila makes a dangerous move later that day. Sheila paid an unexpected visit to Taylor's office. Taylor froze when she saw her standing there. Well, Sheila said pleasantly, imagine my surprise finding out my husband's favorite doctor works right here. Taylor kept her voice calm. What do you want, Sheila? Sheila smiled thinly. Just a conversation, woman to woman. Sheila stepped closer. You're not planning on stealing my husband, are you? Taylor met her gaze. I'm not planning anything with Deacon. Sheila leaned in good. Then she whispered, because accidents happen to women who lie to me. She turned and left. Taylor collapsed into her chair. Shaking. Deacon and Taylor finally confront each other that night. Deacon couldn't take it anymore. He went to Taylor's office. She opened the door. Startled, you shouldn't be here, she said. I know, Deacon replied, but I couldn't stay away. Silence, heavy. Dangerous. I had a fantasy about you today, Taylor admitted. So did I. Deacon said. Their eyes locked. And that's exactly why we have to stop. Taylor whispered. Deacon nodded. But tell me one thing first. He stepped closer. Am I imagining this alone? Taylor shook her head slowly. No. Their hands almost touched. Almost. Then Taylor pulled away. Not like this. Not with Sheila in between us. Deacon closed his eyes. She already knows something's wrong, Taylor whispered. Then we're already in trouble. Cliffhanger ending as Deacon left. Unseen in the shadows, Sheila watched from the hallway. Her face was calm too. Calm. She pulled out her phone and dialed a number. I was right, she said quietly. There. Crossing a line, she smiled, and I'm not going to let them finish. The camera fades in on Taylor's office late in the evening. The lights are dim. Taylor stands alone near her desk. Still shaken by the thoughts she can't control, her fingers tremble slightly as she picks up a framed photo of her children. She whispers to herself, this has to stop. Before it ruins everything. Just then, a soft knock echoes through the office. Taylor freezes. Who is it? She calls. A familiar voice answers. It's me. Deacon. Her heart skips. She hesitates. Then finally walks to the door and opens it. Deacon stands there. Uncertain, vulnerable. I'm sorry to come by so late, he says, quietly. But I couldn't leave things the way they were today. Taylor steps aside. Come in. Deacon admits his fear. They stand several feet apart. Neither dares to move. Closer. I've been trying to convince myself that what I'm feeling is nothing. Deacon says, but every time I close my eyes, you're there. Taylor looks down. That's exactly the problem. I'm married. Deacon continues. And you're the one person I should stay far away from? He lets out a bitter laugh. And yet, you're the only person who makes me feel alive right now. Taylor finally meets his eyes. Deacon, this isn't a romance. This is a disaster waiting to happen. Maybe, he says. But it's a disaster I can't stop thinking about. Silence. Heavy. Dangerous. Taylor takes a slow breath. You have to choose, Deacon. Either you walk out that door right now, or everything changes. He stares at her, and for a moment, it looks like he might choose the wrong thing. Sheila grows suspicious across town. At Il Giardino, Sheila sits alone at the bar. Dek approaches her. You've been quiet tonight, he says. Sheila forces a smile. Just thinking about my wonderful husband. Deke raises an eyebrow. Funny, he hasn't been answering his phone. Sheila's eyes darken. She excuses herself and steps outside. Dialing Deacon's number. Voicemail. She tries again. Voicemail. She whispers. Where are you, Deacon? Will and Dylan's tension explodes back at the beach house. Electra still hasn't returned. Dylan paces the living room nervously. This is a bad idea, she says. Will leans against the counter. You've said that 3 times. And I'll say it again. I should be gone by now, but you're still here. Their eyes meet. The air is thick. I don't want to hurt Electra, Dylan whispers. Neither do I, Will replies. A long pause. Then Dylan suddenly grabs her jacket. I'm leaving. She reaches the door, but Will gently catches her wrist. Just tell me one thing before you go. She turns. Do you feel this too? Dylan hesitates. Yes. She pulls free and rushes out. Will sinks onto the couch. Shaken. Taylor pushes Deacon away back in the office. Taylor steps closer to Deacon, but not in the way he hopes. This ends here, she says firmly. I care about you. That's the truth. Deacon's breath catches. But I will not be the woman who destroys your marriage. Deacon closes his eyes. Sheila terrifies me, he admits, and not just because of what she might do to you, but because of what she's doing to me, Taylor whispers. Then you have to save yourself. She opens the door. Go home, Deacon. He looks at her one last time. If I walk out now, I don't know if I'll ever be strong enough to come back. She replies softly. Then don't come back. He leaves, and Taylor collapses into her chair. In tears, Sheila catches Deacon Leong. Deacon arrives home late. Sheila is waiting, arms crossed. I called you 10 times, she says. I lost track of time. He lies. Where were you? At Il Giardino? Sheila steps closer. You're a terrible liar, Deacon. She touches his face. And I know when you're thinking about another woman. Deacon says nothing. Sheila smiles slowly. So, which one is she? Hope warns Taylor the next morning. Hope visits Taylor. I'm scared for you, Hope says. Sheila is not blind. She senses everything. Taylor nods. I ended it before it started. Hope looks relieved. Good, because if Sheila finds proof, she won't just hurt Deacon. She pauses. She hurt you. Electra returns that evening. Electra finally comes home. She finds Will sitting alone. You look upset, she says. He forces a smile. Just tired. She notices Dylan's jacket still on the chair. Her expression changes. Why is Dylan's jacket still here? Will hesitates because she stayed longer than she should have. Electra's eyes narrow. Stayed for what? Dinner. Silence. Electra senses something is very wrong. Sheila makes her first move later that night. Sheila meets with a mysterious man in a dark corner booth. I need you to follow someone for me, she says. She slides a photo across the table. It's Taylor. I want to know everywhere she goes, and everyone she sees. The man nods. Sheila smiles. If she makes one mistake, I want to be the first to know.